going to go over a few stocks on the 5-minute time frame and show you the channel that we are currently in for Monday. Hi everyone, it's Dow on the Dow. The first stock I'm going to go over is Tesla. Congratulations if you've made some money off of this stock. It ran once again. We ended the day at $177.90, up 11%. We are right here to the north side of that at 2 standard deviations, takes us to roughly 185.48. 190.35, and to the north side of that at 4 standard deviations is 194.92. Should we slide back down to the middle of the trend, or from where we are, this is considered support, that is 175.74. VWAP is at roughly 173.41. To the south side of that, 166. 161.23, and a gap begins to the south side at roughly 157.98, and at -4 standard deviations 156.46 roughly. And note the bounce right here at resistance, and right here a sell-off at support. This is an outlier, 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 resistance, resistance, and resistance. And the RSI turning down after being in the range of the overbought zone. I anticipate a sell-off anytime we get into this area as people take their profits and they run. And of course, it still could go to the upside as it sells off a little bit and then corrects. All right, the next stock is AXP. We ended the day at $172.31, up nearly 11%. To the north side is roughly 180.53, 185.61, and 190.43. Ignore the yellow line, that's for a different time frame. And to the south side at the middle of the trend, or the median, is 169.97. A gap to the downside begins at roughly 165.49. -2 standard deviations is 159.91 roughly. The gap to the downside fills at roughly 156.02. Another target area to look out for is 154.58, and at -4 standard deviations, roughly 149.76. The RSI is no longer, well, it's bouncing off, I should say, in the oversold zone. Anytime we hit this area, I anticipate a bounce. As you can see, a bounce through here as people buy the dip. All right, let's take a look at Jets, and I want to thank a viewer named Marat for having me look at this stock again. It's been a while, for actually inspiring me to make this video. All right, we ended the day at $20.30, down nearly 1%. To the north side, well, VWAP is right there, and that takes us to 2034. The middle of the trend is roughly 2036. To the north side of that, 2050, 2057, and finally 2065. And to the south side, at -2 standard deviations, 2021, 2014, and finally 2007. Now, this is considered support, support, support. Notice the bounce off of support here as well as we rip to the north side, and this is considered resistance if we are right here, and then a sell-off at resistance back down to support. And the RSI on Jets is going sideways. So hopefully it's going to go slowly, make its way up back to this area. And the next stock I want to go over is actually an ETF, and so was Jets. So this one is PEJ. Let me make this a little bit bigger. All right, to the north side at the middle of the trend would take us to 41.59, 42.87, 43.54, and finally at 4 standard deviations, $44.19 roughly. And of course, there are many levels in between to get to this range, okay? Now, to the south side is 40.29, 39.62, and finally 38.99. The RSI looking like it's going sideways. It has room to move though to the upside before it becomes overbought. All right, let's take a look at the next one, LHX. To the north side from where we are is roughly 218.04, 221.68, and let me move that down, 224.71. And to the middle of the trend takes us to 210.83 roughly. A gap to the downside starts at roughly 204.82. Negative 2 standard deviations is 203.49, 199.85, and 196.22. The RSI looks like it is selling off. And I want to show you one other thing. And notice that the price tends to stay in this channel. Anything outside this channel is an outlier, whether it's to the south side, here, here, or here. So anytime a stock gets into this zone, or this zone, I anticipate people buying the dip. And when it's up here, here, and here along these lines there, that I anticipate people will sell as they take their profits and they run. Those are my signs that I look out for. Let me know what you like, what indicators you like to use. All right, the next one is Airbnb. I've traded this one in the past and made some money off of it. To the north side is 117.80, 120.05, 122.40. To the south side at VWAP is roughly 114.52. At the middle of the trend, 113.21, 108.61. The gap to the downside starts at 106.29 roughly and closes out at roughly 104.68. And at negative 4 standard deviations is 104.08. And the RSI selling off after we've hit the overbought zone. Again, anytime the RSI gets into this territory, I do anticipate a sell-off. The next one is ARK. And thank you to Murat for having me take a look at this one as well. We are right here to the north side of that is roughly 41.16, 41.89, and 42.67 at 4 standard deviations. VWAP is at roughly 39.77, the middle of the trend, very close to that, 39.59. To the south side of that at negative 2 standard deviations, 38.03, 37.28, and finally 36.46. The RSI still looking like it is going down but sort of hooking to the side. So maybe it is going to go to the side and possibly, I don't know, maybe go back down to resistance from here. All right, the next one is Snowflake. To the north side of that is roughly 167.17, 171.66, 176.29. To the middle of the trend, and basically VWAP is roughly 157.86, 148.82, 143.86, and 139.37. The RSI shooting straight down, and I will anticipate a bounce at around 30. It might just like over here, fall below 30 and then bounce. Rip to the upside. We'll keep our fingers crossed for that. The next one is General Motors, end of the day at 37.95, up 4%. To the north side of that, the channel that we are in takes us to roughly 38.45, 38.91, and 39.34. Of course, it can go higher too, but I'm not going there. I'm just going to take it up to 4 standard deviations. The middle of the trend and VWAP is roughly 37.55, 36.65, 36.19, and finally 35.72. The RSI shooting straight down after being overbought right here. And I like to, take it right to 70. There. All right, the next one is Amazon. I've looked at this. I looked at it a couple of weeks ago, so it's gone up since then. I think I looked at it when it was $85 or $82. All right, to the north side of that, of 102.24 is 105.27, 106.90, 108.60, and to the south side at -2 standard deviations is 98.59, 96.82, and finally 95.26. The RSI looks like it's kind of going down and maybe to the side. So maybe we will hit this from where we are. This would be resistance and a bounce off of resistance. Oh, and there is a gap to the downside that begins at roughly 99.53, closes out at 99.25. The next one is Meta. It ended the day at 151.74, up 3%. To the north side of that, 155.29, 157.33, 159.48. The middle of the trend is roughly 151.30, 147.08, 145.04. A gap to the downside starts at roughly 143.91, closes out at roughly 141.84. But at -4 standard deviations is roughly 143.10. The next one is Visa. To the north side of that, of 231.44 is 234.38. 236.50, and finally at 4 standard deviations, roughly 238.63. VWAP is 231.09, the middle of the trend or the median, 230.25. A gap forms at roughly 227.31. -2 standard deviations takes us to 226. The gap fills at roughly 225.02, 223.91, 221.79. Ignore this. This belongs to a different timeline and some price predictions that I like to go over, but not on the 5-minute time frame. The RSI selling off after hitting overbought. That is a clue for me right there. So I anticipate a sell-off anytime we hit 70 and above in this zone. So that's what happened here. Here, just look at the patterns. And NVDA. To the north side, 207.90. Oh, let me do that again. 208.09, 210.57, and roughly 213.13. To the south side, the middle of the trend takes us to 203.15. From this zone right here to this area, this would be considered also support. So we might bounce off of here or bounce off of VWAP. All right, to the south side of that is 198.21, 195.73, 193.34. RSI there is selling off at 40, 39-ish, 40, and again a sell-off after we hit 70. And the final stock I'm going to go over, because this is going long, is Ford. And to the north side is 1343, 1357, and 1370. To the south side, VWAP is at 1320. The middle of the trend takes us to 1317. 1290, roughly 1277 at -3 standard deviations, and $12.64 there. And there is a gap right here that already filled. The RSI appears to be going up, so that's a good sign after selling off at the overbought zone right here. All right, that does it for me. If there is a stock that you would like me to go over, please let me know, and thank you so much for watching. And I will make some videos later on the monthly time frame. That's where I'd like to check out longer for myself some stocks in the big picture, and that's where I like to invest off of the monthly time frame. All right, thanks for watching.